So, welcome everyone to our weekly expert series. I'm your host, Bridgit Danner, and I'm here today with my friend Heather Aardema, who's a national board and functional medicine certified health coach, which is awesome. She's the founder of the School of Living Lighter, a weight loss methodology grounded in minimalism, functional medicine, and cognitive behavior. By releasing the clutter in their minds, bodies, and homes, her hundreds of clients are actively living lighter as they tackle their clutter, uncomplicate their lives, and lose weight for good. She's been featured on popular wellness and minimalism platforms such as No Sidebar, Minimalism Life, Becoming Minimalist, Optimal Living Daily, Optimal Health Daily. Explore her DIY courses, monthly membership, and private coaching for your lightest self. So we'll share. Actually, I'll get some of those things up in the chat right now. She also has an upcoming summit about healing habits that we'll talk about. So first of all, welcome, Heather. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Bridget. I really appreciate the space to share.
Yeah, so we talked about some things you do, and maybe we'll get into those. But the real reason we brought you on today is because you have a mold story.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sharing with you that I didn't really have any speaker on my summit to talk about mold and how it affects your relationships, particularly with your partner. But I think we'll touch on some other relationships, and you were willing to do it. So thank you.
Well, and hopefully you all don't think I'm airing my dirty laundry. I was raised not to air the dirty laundry, but it's when you get toxic mold in your home, we're all very human, and it can be really hard on the marriage. And I think it's such an important component uh, to think about when you're on that journey, and how can you be intentional so that maybe you can actually come out the other end having a stronger relationship with your partner or your spouse
Great.
than before. Exactly.
Yeah, and I can touch on my experience too and some things I've heard and seen from other clients. So yeah, it's certainly not unique to you and your partner. And I love how you said come on out on the other side better. I think that's what I'm teaching overall in my mold book, and I probably focus less on the relationship part because I didn't do a great job of it. I got divorced afterwards. So I'm like on the other I'm on the other side of that happy ending. But I think everything happens kind of for a reason too. Like if you aren't finding the tools in your marriage to weather some storms, there's an issue there. So
Yes. And mold
better to
can be a
kind of
storm. Mold can be a
oh,
huge storm, right? And
huge storm. I mean, I don't think any couple at all is like, cool, we did this together, like a couple of champs. No. Everybody's got some stuff. So I wonder if you want to tell, or should we just tell a little bit about
yeah.
how you found mold and how the conversation's happening in your household?
Okay. So I have both a chronic mold and an acute mold story.
Okay.
When I was 7, my parents' house was flooded, and my parents lifted up the carpeting and ran the fans. And after that, I developed a cough. So I am 47 today. So that happened 40 years ago. And I asked my parents maybe about a year ago, I'm like, how long have I been coughing? And they told me, right when around you were 7, that's kind of when you started. And I said, what did you think about it? And they're like, well, we just thought it was something cute. Like there wasn't,
It's like your cute habit you picked up.
she just coughs. Heather just coughs, but I didn't come out of the womb coughing. And so and this is not their fault. They knew what they knew. They did the best they could with the tools they had at the time. But it is definitely something I've been very susceptible to my whole life. And so I had that kind of running on in the background. And then a few years ago, we had a water heater leak. And I live in Colorado. Colorado is very, very dry. Many people would think like, oh, Colorado, you probably don't have a problem with mold at all. And we had this water heater leak, didn't really realize it. And it got so bad that the wall, basically the opposite side of the water heater leak, that was my bedroom. and our wall got pushed out, but we didn't see that because there was a dresser covering it up. And so I didn't know what was going on. I was really, really sick all of a sudden. So I had 3 months of vertigo where the walls are spinning. It's like a roller coaster you can't get off of. I had dizziness, extra coughing, just all the sinus symptoms that you can think of. And I ended up doing a mold test and we found out I had mold in my body. And so then we brought a company in to find the mold and we realized, wow, that water heater leak was really, really bad. And so that kind of began our journey of, wow, this house is not a safe house for me. And I need to get out as soon as I possibly can.
How long was that window from the symptoms to
Oh,
finding?
well, I had the vertical for 3 months. It was 8 episodes within 3 months and they were horrifying. And I did not do the mold test for probably another 3 months. And I didn't know it was mold.
Right.
I ended up being an inner ear infection, but that was all kind of with the domino effect. It was the mold. And then when we got our house, when they looked at our house and measured the mold in every room, the only room that did not have active mold was my kids' bedroom, and they sleep in bunk beds. And when I found out that our bedroom, my husband and my bedroom, was one of the worst rooms with the mold, I left that room immediately and I went into my kids' bedroom and I slept with them for 2 months before I left the house. So knowing that there was mold, I was there for 2 months. And that definitely, like, that was a mind game, because I was like, I am in a toxic house right now. I am not going to get better until I get out of this house, until this house gets remediated.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm glad it was fairly quick that you like looked.
Once we figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me back up a bit. So did you know you had this childhood mold thing before, or did that just occur to you when you got your second mold problem?
Oh, it just totally occurred to me.
Okay.
I always thought it was so bizarre. I'm like, why am I always coughing? I'd look around at everybody else. I'm like, I don't think they're coughing. Why am I? And then it became part of like a nervous habit as well. So I remember when I was a kid, I was on swim team. And so anytime before I dove into the water, I'd cough. And it's just, I talked to some friends, actually, some high school friends about a year ago. And I'm like, do you remember me coughing? And they're like, yeah, you were always coughing. And so it's one of those, like, that's so bizarre though. Like, I don't know why I didn't go to the doctor or anything like that, but probably because I was really healthy otherwise. So
Yeah.
I was really active. I was a runner. I was in sports. And so I just had this cough, kind of this annoying cough. Yeah. So that's probably like the longest symptom I've had. And frankly, the cough is much less worse than the vertigo or some of the other things. So but I will be grateful when it's gone. And you'll probably hear me cough at a point, here on the during our conversation. But it's
Yeah, it's probably like you said, a few things. And my coughing is like the body's way of like expelling, right? It's not the worst thing, but then it becomes a habit. And you probably had leaky lung, like you probably
yes.
stayed that way. I'm really pretty fascinated by leaky lung as a concept, and I redeveloped asthma after mold, and I think I have some leaky lung along with a lot of histamine issues
Yeah.
for me. I don't know if it's the same for you.
I have some histamine issues, and I was
Okay.
diagnosed with asthma in my late 20s. I was always feeling just kind of faint and weak. And so I remember going to the doctors once and my heart rate was 39 and they're like, oh, this seems really weird. But they tested me for asthma and I had it. I'm like, well, that's crazy because I don't feel like I struggle with breathing at all. And so they put me on an inhaler way back when, but I will tell you, I never used it. I didn't feel like I needed it, but it wasn't until this second massive mold experience with the water heater leak where all of a sudden I'm like, I can't breathe. And you can probably hear my wheezing right now. It's there. It's much better than it was before. But I realized, I'm like, oh, the mold definitely woke up some asthma. And this is
Yeah.
very, very different than what I experienced when I was in my 20s. Yeah.
Yeah, we're both a little older now. Yeah, we're the same age actually,
Okay.
so no criticism there. Yeah, I think you can be, and perimenopause can make you more susceptible. So yeah, it's funny. I have like a pulmonologist, or I don't know what he's called here, and he's conventional, but he's a nice guy. And he's just like, I don't know if you have asthma or not. He's like, you seem pretty healthy. You're not that bad. But I'm like, I can feel it. I
Yeah.
can feel the shortness of breath. And I didn't really understand the histamine piece, nor did he, to really weigh in. And I think that's the biggest piece for me. So hopefully that helps some people listening who are maybe dealing with some lung stuff. And I think it's interesting too. Well, you had vertigo, which is a little different. Like, I see sometimes it's like, why do we develop certain things? I think about kids and they always have like those ear issues and
Yeah.
respiratory issues, and then they kind of reawakened for you when you got re-exposed. So that just seems like an interesting tie-in, huh?
Yeah, it totally does. Talk more about the histamine piece. So I did a low histamine diet. I also have autoimmune conditions, and so I thought, well, maybe this will help with some of my skin conditions. And it was really sweet. I actually did it with my youngest son. We did the low histamine diet together, and he would not let me cheat. He was like, "No, mom, we could not have the avocado." And so we did it for three
Did it
months.
help you or no?
But you know what? That was actually before the water heater leak, and then the water heater leak happened I think a few months after that. So I didn't notice anything. I think there were just so many variables that were going on at the time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we ate really good meals and things like that. But
Right. I think the diet is just part of it, because if you're healthy with how you process food and detoxify, you can eat a varied diet. We each of us have like maybe our own trigger foods. But yeah, I actually asked one guest on the summit that question because I'm like, I'm doing pretty well now, but I still have this histamine thing. And he was just like, well, you still have a root cause. And I was like, okay. A lot of root cause is gut stuff. And I feel like that's going pretty well for me. But at the same time, I don't honestly know if I've ever fully cleared yeast. So I'm starting a new gut rehab program. I'm using a lot of Donna Gates products because I just interviewed her too. She's got a probiotic, especially for histamine, but she had me first start on an enzyme for my biofilm. So I'm doing that right now. And then adding in more like probiotics. I may do like a parasite kind of antibacterial little round. I mean, it's been quite a while since I've done that, and I hate it the most. I hate killing gut bugs.
yes,
It's the worst.
yes.
I'm very
Oh yeah.
sensitive to it, so I've avoided it. But I think it might be time to just do a round of that again, and just start there. I mean, I'm definitely sensitive to tea and chocolate and coffee. They're
Okay.
histamine things, and I love them. So,
Yes. Yes.
so it's a mixed thing. Like, I still have them, but there's times that I'll go off because I'm just like, I need to clear house. I'm obviously really careful about fragrance and other things that I breathe in. But if I have a slip up, I will feel that raise my histamines and get a headache.
Oh, is that so? The headache is what happens for you? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have the breathing. The breathing thing is probably the most persistent. But if things are really off, I'll have like headache and like panic attacks, stuff like that.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
can feel it there. I do remember now, food, leftovers. So I used to be a huge like, make 3 meals a week, make leftover or just double the recipe or triple the recipe, and then put everything in the fridge. And I realized I could not tolerate food the next day. I would get super stuffy. And so
Yeah,
that was probably the biggest insight I got from that experience that has impacted my life and stayed with me today. So we
from the
do,
diet. Yeah.
yeah, we'll do more cooking, but we try and just yeah, keep things really simple.
Yeah, Dave Asprey is a big proponent of that. For people who are on the chat, we'll kind of wrap up this histamine thing and get back to relationships. It is interesting. It's definitely like top of mind. So there's lots of things that liberate histamines or prevent the breakdown of histamines. And in my opinion, some will be more triggering for you than others. Like if you're in a real bad place, everything could be triggering. You mentioned avocado. I've never once had a problem with avocado, thank goodness. But I don't drink like at all because that's very histamine heavy, especially again in perimenopause and with a burden on the liver. So yeah, Barbara, a lot of people with mold have a histamine issue, partly because we have something called mast cell activation syndrome, which is basically the body is releasing inflammatory signaling in response to the chronic threat of mold. But that's just one root cause of histamine issues. It can be like the gut, like I mentioned, is there's several things that can go on in the gut, the perimenopause thing that I mentioned. So it is a really common problem. And as I look back on my mold journey, I think a lot of my worst symptoms were histamine related. And I just didn't really understand the issue. Like I have 3 day, or not 3 day, like 3 week headaches I would have, and it sucked. And I just didn't understand. Like I literally could have just taken some Benadryl and like knocked a lot of it out. So I will say I've discovered, what is it? It's not Allegra. There's like a non-drowsy over-the-counter histamine thing, and I've been taking it every day, to be honest, because I find it stronger than some of the quercetin and like certain things that are good for histamines that are natural. I'm just right now enjoying the the good life of like being on that antihistamine. It feels amazing, but I also want to work on my root issues
Yeah,
that
for
create
sure, for
it.
sure.
Yeah. Um, Alicia is saying, yeah,
Hmm.
I don't get your first word, Alicia, but yeah, your husband, your healthy husband usually coughs before a statement. Yeah, sometimes we have that little phlegm in our throat, right?
Yeah,
Where's that phlegm coming from? Could be a little histamine, a little egg allergy, all sorts of things.
right. A little postnasal drip, like that's, that's something I've dealt with for so long as well. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, I had put that postnasal drip too. I didn't really, wasn't as much of a cough as like lots of sore throats. And
mm,
I would do, morning and night, I would do a nasal wash back in those days just to get that drip. So yeah, I think you're right. This drip thing is
it can
really
be
common.
really aggravating, and it can kind of like you just have this like constant itch in your throat. And so that's yeah, for some it's a sore throat, for others it's a clearing of the throat or constantly clearing the throat. Yeah, for me it's just like that, or the
Yeah.
massive coughing that then moves my ribs around. Not good.
Yeah, I remember Sean Croxton, who's a mentor of mine in this space. He had that little cough and he did a lot of interviews and he found out egg allergy. So that's just why I
Oh,
brought that up. It's just
yeah,
anything that's creating that little bit of inflammation in your mucous membranes, right? So,
right,
yeah,
right.
super interesting. Okay, so let's get back. You found out about this water heater incident. So now you're like, tell us the first combos with your husband.
Well, I was fortunate because I'm in this community. I had a contact. I knew the best company that could come out, one that would give us an unbiased opinion. And I just knew that before my husband and I could talk, we needed to have some data. And so we got the data. We knew we needed to do something about it. And where I'm really fortunate is that I have a sister, and I reached out to her and she's like, yes, come to my house, bring your kids. And her house had just been tested for mold. And so I knew it was going to be a great place to be. Um, she also she has a Rife machine. She has a sauna.
Nice.
I was drinking ozone water every evening. I mean, I felt like I was kind of going to a resort. So I was fortunate that I could go there. My husband stayed here in Colorado. He stayed at the home. We have a camper and he does home improvement. We got 3 bids to do the remediation. And he said, okay, Heather, this is clearly impacting you more than anybody else. I was the only one with symptoms. So my 2 kids, my husband, no issues whatsoever. And so he said, we can hire one of these companies, or I will do it. And nobody loves this house more than I do. And I will take all the bids were really detail orientated. And he's like, I can do all of this. And so we now have a lot of mold tools that we did not have before. But that was, he wanted to do it. He did it. And I feel better with him doing it than anybody else. Just with the precautions I know you take, and the fact that he would not change anything, but he would, I mean, instead of just doing one route, he did like all 3 routes basically. So he put a lot of energy into making our house a safe place. Where the struggle really started was when I came back and in deciding what came back into the house.
How long did it take him, by the way, to do that work?
Oh my goodness. 4 months. And
Oh, wow.
because he wasn't so the first month and a half, he worked really hard. He did the remediation, but he also did the rebuild. And so it was 4 months for all of that. We have a small house, but we needed brand new walls. We needed a brand new bathroom. I needed a new bedroom. We needed a lot. And so that was all his responsibility. And then when this was a year ago, when our schools opened back up, the kids flew back to Colorado. And so he was also single dad. So then he was able to work basically 20 hours a week. And then he was with the kids and driving them to sports and so forth. And I stayed in Michigan. It was the longest I've been away from my husband or my kids, but we didn't want me to go back to the house before it was done. Like, it was just, I had such a comfortable place to be. And so it made sense to us to just wait for the house to be done before I came back. And so that was, I so appreciate all the work that went into the house to make it a safe place. Where we got a little lost, Bridgit, is in what we brought back into the house.
Right. Which is, yeah, let me just highlight a couple things you said before we have that discussion, because that is a huge one. You got out. Is super important, and you didn't like guilt trip yourself about, oh, I gotta be the super mom. It's like, you cannot be in the house when it's being remediated. No. And then this story you're telling about your husband is one of the few ways you can DIY it. Look how long it took him. He knew all the things because he read the bids, which is a smart idea. You know, a friend of mine just sent her friends, the friend's husband got like sledgehammer. There's mold everywhere. No sheeting. I know. I felt just like you. No air scrubber. I'm just like, I can't even look at this. I can't even see this right now. So you cannot do that. So, but if you have some background, and I've seen this 2-3 times, if you have some background, you get the training, you go about it nice and methodically, then you can potentially do it. But don't think it'll be in a weekend. It took him 4 months.
No, it took him 4 months. And also, like, this fit his natural skill set. So he's been doing bathrooms and kitchens and all kinds of things for a long time. And he's dealt with mold in his clients' homes. And so this was easy for him to take on, especially because he had 3 blueprints that said exactly how these other companies would do it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I don't think, to him, he was like, I want to be even more painstakingly careful than anybody else would be. Maybe it wasn't necessary, but I applauded that he cared that much.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let's get into belongings. Honestly, these are some of the biggest arguments and biggest personal emotional triggers and biggest debates. So yeah, tell us what you two got into it about.
Well, I'll just cut to the chase, because before I left the house, we did a massive decluttering where we went through every room. We got rid of so much, and we had different piles. So trash and donate, and the kids wanted to have a garage sale. So we had a garage sale pile. And I will tell you, Bridgit, so my kids are 10 and 11. So this is a year and a half ago. And they went through the motions too, right? They had to get rid of their things, like not everything, but they had to get rid of things. And so at first they were really excited, like, yes, let's declutter the whole house. And then after a couple of hours, like, they both like hit rock bottom. And we have this clubhouse in the back, And what was so great is they just quietly went out to the clubhouse, played a little out there, pulled themselves back together, came back in about 30 minutes later and said, okay, we can keep going. And I think as adults, we don't give ourselves that pause when we're doing something hard. And I'm so proud that they were able to say, this just feels really heavy. And they took that break. So we went through our things. I will tell you, if you ask me, I think we got rid of 80% of our stuff. If you ask my husband, he'll tell you we got rid of like 5%. So the truth is somewhere in the middle. And I'm not quite sure where it is. But
so can you explain, Heather, if people like, well, why is she getting rid of her stuff? Tell us why.
Oh, the contamination. And
okay,
so
just in case people don't know, explain that.
Oh, yeah. It's so just because something doesn't have water, like visible water damage, that mold was traveling throughout our home. Like constantly, we turn on the heat, we turn on, it's constantly moving around. And so we knew the whole house, even though my son's bedroom, the only room that did not have active mold, we still knew every room in the house needed to be addressed before I could come back in. And so that was really, really important.
Okay. Yeah. And a lot of people will ask me and argue with me about what they can keep and what they cannot. So let's go over that real quick. You can keep almost nothing is really my answer. Like you can keep like a steel bowl. You can keep like barely, I mean, literally, like you can put some photos in a tub and don't open them again.
Don't open
you've been really sick, don't open them again.
And don't get close to them either.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had to get rid of a brand new Mac computer because it gets in the crevices of your, the fan and everything. I don't know if you did this or not, Heather, but did you switch out like your refrigerator or how did you clean that?
Well, no, we didn't switch out the fridge, but we did get a new washer and dryer because our washer and dryer were full of mold. Couldn't see it, like the naked eye couldn't see it, but yeah, we needed to get new appliances. Because I was gone, so if my husband were here, he could tell you exactly like the products he used and all the different things he did. I'm not sure, but everything had to leave our house. So when I left the house to go to Michigan, I walked through room to room to room. It was like we were moving. I mean, the house was empty house. And you need to do that because you're going to be addressing every room. You're going to be doing the mold paint, you're going to be doing the fogger, you're going to be taking down walls, if you have to take down walls. And we had to, in my case. So it's, everything left. We had those 4 piles. We have a shed that used to hold our bikes. And so we took the bikes out and put everything in there. Fortunately, we have a small house. We have this cute little white brick house that's only 1,300 square feet.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't have tons of things because, well, my husband's a minimalist. I'm an aspiring minimalist. And so we never really wanted to clutter up the house in the first place. And so, but it still hits you hard when you're like, wow, all this stuff needs to leave. And at the time I was like, well, I'm not sure what can go back in or what can't. But here was our big mistake. We had 2 big mistakes. Right before I was about to fly back, I told my husband, I said, okay, we need to buy a new couch, and a new mattress. And he's like, and he's worked so hard, right? He's like, scrubbed them. They've been out in the sun. I guarantee you they're okay. Now, Bridgit.
I zero guarantee they're not okay. Wait, I all the way guarantee they're not okay.
Exactly. But here's the thing. I knew like deep down in my heart, I'm like, oh, they're not okay. Oh, why would we do all this work and then bring these in just to save a couple bucks? I mean, then that's the other thing. Mold is expensive. This was very expensive.
And those 2 items aren't cheap, right? A good quality mattress and a good quality couch that are not full of flame retardants. So yeah.
Exactly. Right. We bought an organic mattress. Exactly. We could have gotten a better quality couch, but anyway, so he's like, no, I promise. So here I'm in this position of, I think I know better, but he's just done all this work. And I didn't speak my truth again. I flew back.
Right.
the couch is there. Well, we have very little at this time because we got rid of all the other furniture. But the couch is there. The mattress is there. And I didn't speak my truth. I didn't. And in my mind, I thought, well, if I bring this up, he won't take it well. And I thought I could control, like, maybe I'll be okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Like I tried to convince myself of that. And I slept on that bed for 8 months. And then I didn't understand. I was getting better and better, but I hit a plateau. And I didn't understand, why am I not getting better? Like, why is this, like, what's going on? And every morning I'd sleep on my left-hand side. Every morning I'd wake up with a stuffed ear, stuffed nose. And it hit me. Oh my gosh, Heather, you have to have your own back. Your husband thinks he has your back. He has no bad intentions, but you're the one that hasn't had your back. You know better than he does. And so, because if a spouse doesn't have symptoms, then they truly may not think it's a big deal. And so I had a very enlightening conversation with a friend. And I realized that part of why I hadn't said anything was that, I've been a pleaser for a long time as one of my responses in life. And after that conversation, I came out. I told my kids, the mattress is leaving today. The couch actually at that point was already gone. But the mattress is leaving today. And my kids are like, oh, Mom, Dad's not going to like that. And I'm like, doesn't matter. Then my husband came home from a bike ride and I said, the couch needs to leave. He's like, no, like, well, how about like next weekend? I said, no, like this very moment it needs to leave. And he's like, well, where will I sleep? And sometimes we have these like very like, we will create obstacles or we'll create barriers that they don't need to be there.
No, that's so well said. Yeah.
Don't have to be there.
Like, if it's not this mattress, he'll never be able to sleep again. No,
exactly.
Of course not. Yeah.
Well, and what I realized, because for about a month before I had that conversation with the friend where I found my power again, I just knew, I'm waking up with a stuffed ear. This is not right. So I started sleeping in my kid's bedroom again. And I was waking up with no stuffed ears, no stuffed nose. I could breathe all night long. And so I knew, I'm like, oh, no, like now I have my proof.
Yeah.
And so all I needed to do was to say to him, this is important to me, and stand my ground, and no, it needs to leave today. And so the minute I did that, he's like, all right, come on, kids, help me carry this out. It was like that. And so I look at that situation and I don't blame him. He's not me. He's not reacting to the mold. He thought he did what was necessary. He thought he did a good enough job, or at least he hoped he did. And at the end of the day, if I had spoken up for myself right at the very beginning, that 8-month delay would not have been an issue. That would not have happened. Right.
And he would have listened, and maybe you just didn't know how to say it, or you were in your people pleasing. Like, he had just spent 4 months being super dad. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, took the kids to school every day, picked them up every day, took them to multiple sports while I'm staying at the resort.
Spa vacation.
The spa vacation at my sister's, where they're like making me my ozone water. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just really, really lovely.
No, I get it. I mean, it makes sense, both of your arguments, but at the same time, neither of your arguments really made sense in the end. So yeah. Okay. I think it's true too. I've had some of those my own experiences with that lately, as I try to shift my own like boundaries and people pleasing. Like, as soon as I really own it, people are like, oh, okay.
We build it up bigger in our heads than it's going to be. So we think, oh, that person won't like this, whatever it is, when that person is probably going to be okay with it. And so it's like, look at the stories that we're creating and how can you shift into a more empowered state with those stories.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And I think some of the dynamics in your marriage already at play can continue at play, accentuate during this stress. We were almost the opposite in my house, because my ex-husband is an engineer and he's always so detailed. And I'm just like, well, like, just, do it now. So I just thought he was being so paranoid sometimes, and it would
Mm,
drive me crazy. But he was totally right. Like we
yeah,
brought stuff, too much stuff to our temporary house, and then we infected that house. So he was completely right. But yeah, and I think looking back, it's sort of like everybody's getting triggered by their own stuff, and if you can maybe stop and hear
yeah,
each other's side of the story,
yeah,
and try to find some middle ground. I think that's some of it too, right? Like people are just not feeling heard,
right.
understood.
Well,
So
and
slowing down.
Bridget, also, I practice what you preach. So here I'm saying this item needs to leave, that item needs to leave. And by the way, those items left, but then he had to fog again. He had to, I mean, there was a lot of work that had to be
Yeah.
done again.
Yeah.
And because those toxic things were in there. So it was contaminated again. And so a lot of work would have been alleviated had we just adjusted on the spot. But the whole practice what you preach. So here I'm saying get rid of all these things. But then when it came to some of my things, I really had trouble letting go. Right. And so we had,
You're like, but not my scrapbooks. So
well, oh my gosh. So my diplomas, I just like, I threw away my undergrad, my graduate diplomas. Like, no, they're paper in this frame. I threw away all of my diaries since I was 8 years old. And what helped me with that, because a lot of us will have trouble letting go, is do I want to live looking backwards, or do I want to live looking forwards? And
100%. So well said. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So I needed to get rid of some things. And the pictures, like we might think even pictures in a tub and you'll be okay. I got rid of a lot of pictures, but then we still have a few in the tub outside. And we were outside with some friends, and I was probably 20 feet away from the tub. I forgot that it was there, kind of out of sight, not really like present in my vision. And within 40 minutes, my eyes were itchy, my nose was stuffy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like they're even too close to the house right now. And so, yeah, just get rid of them. It's not worth it.
Yeah, yeah. I think, I feel like I wish we had another 2 hours because there's so many questions I see coming up. We'll get to some of them, but yeah, I feel looking back, it's like you have to know like some of those things are going to bring up emotions, and that's just part of the process, and everyone's going to have that come up. But it doesn't mean that you hold on and how can you say, like you legitimize like the holding on of it because of your
Yeah.
emotions. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's a grief, it's a loss, but like you said, it's like, does what really matters is like what's ahead for you and your family, not those
Yeah.
diaries. You probably weren't going to read them anyways.
Probably not. My kids might have, but no. And here's, you mentioned loss. And I think that there's a way to really look at the lighter side of loss. And one tool that I can share, this definitely helps me, um, is is the idea of turning any FOMO you have, like, oh no, I need to keep the diaries. I don't want to miss out. I want to be able to read them when I want to read them, that type of thing, and flipping it to JOMO, which is the joy of missing out. And so now that those diaries are not in my house, I am more at peace. I'm more comfortable because I know that this environment is a safe environment. Before it was
Good
not a safe
point.
environment.
You can celebrate that.
Yeah,
Great.
so find
Yeah.
that silver lining of getting rid of whatever it is you're getting rid of. And you can always, I think I saw somebody mention, you can always take pictures of things. But if
Mm-hmm.
you do that, be so careful. I put on a mask, and I was trying to take some pictures of old letters that my grandparents had sent me, and they all have passed on. And my parents really wanted those. They're like, no, don't throw those away, Heather. Like, we want to see them. Well, I spent about 30 minutes taking pictures of these items, and it knocked me out for 4 hours. It was just a wave that hit me. And I was so sick, and I knew all the mold spores, I was breathing them in. And so be really careful if you are
Yeah.
going to
The
come
more
into
you
contact
spend
with stuff.
time with all that, yeah, you're getting exposed. I can just remember going through these different boxes and like, Yeah, you're just in it, getting exposed right when you want to heal. Lucy has a nice point about you can use make copies, but then you gotta like burn that copier. You can't. Now you ruin the copier. Does fogging work, Barbara? I think yes and no. Like it's really meant for like you've taken out all these items and you've washed surfaces. For wood, you have to sand it and then you can fog. So it's really like about cleaning the last little bits in the space and not really for saving items. Yeah, and do you have to kind of clean it all out at once, Barbara? Yes. One thing I've suggested, and other people have suggested this too, like if you want to put some things in a maybe category, you can put them in like a shed like Heather does, but don't let them get moldy out there. And then revisit it. But you may find like Heather, like you can't be within 20 feet of that box. Well, now you know those things cannot come back in. Usually if you get away from your stuff for a few months and work on some healing and then you're around that stuff again, you're going to realize, yes, it makes you quite sick. Did you find that?
Oh gosh, it hit me so hard. I mean, my husband and kids think it's crazy. Like they're like, you have like a special, like, it's like I have a superpower. I can walk into a room and I know pretty quickly, like if there's mold or not, like and not in our house, but even, in other places, like I can, it's like a wave that comes and hits me. And then it's like, oh, I'm going to be out for a couple of hours.
Yeah, it happens to me too. Luckily, not that often. I love that you guys helped each other with some things in the comments about how to detox. And Barbara was saying she couldn't do binders, but she did these different detox techniques, which is totally valid. Like, not all of us can tolerate supplements. Some people can't tolerate sauna. So you have to find your own thing. But I agree with you, Barbara. All those things you mentioned are exactly what helped me the most. I just talked about this on a different podcast. Like, all those lymph movers helped me the most. So I always push them really hard. Heather, I want to screen share some of your things coming up and some things about your business. I know mold isn't always what you talk about, but it sort of goes along with what you do. Oh, and there was another question in the Q&A. Can mold affect eyesight? It can, and I've read some really interesting stuff on it, and I just can't remember like the source and the details.
Have you done the VSL test? I think that's
yeah,
what it is.
I honestly not a big fan of that test
Okay.
personally. But yeah, it can affect your eyesight, and that's why that test was embedded, your visual acuity. And yeah, so you could look into that.
It completely impacted my eyesight, but my eyesight is back now. It just, yeah, it can impact every aspect of your being.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's some really interesting stuff on how it affects vision in particular, and I just I should look it up again because I think it's interesting. Yeah, it can affect so many things. Floaters too, you can have. Barbara's so cute. She's like, yeah, I mostly learned that from you. Like, yeah, it's because I never shut up about all these things. But they work, right, Barbara? They totally work. Okay, so first thing I'll show is your summit, which I'm speaking on.
Yes,
I haven't looked at the page yet. Of course, I'm talking about mold. But I talk about like detox. No, actually, we talked quite a bit about home.
Daily detox habits and home and
we talked to non-toxic living.
You know what you did, which I really liked, is you went room by room and you talked about, what were the things that were potentially harmful, potentially that could get in your way. And then we did talk mold as well.
It's so funny you asked me that because I don't know if you knew that I had done a whole series on like the home by home. So
no, I didn't. It was perfect.
Because I was like, why is she asking me the exact? Yeah, because I kind of like, you can simplify it by just thinking, okay, what is the biggest needle mover in every home? So this event starts in March. You said March 21st. Yep. You can sign up now. Go ahead.
And it's called Healing Habits. And we focus on simple shifts for a health-filled life, but not just the shifts, but we also focus on the how of habit change. So often we know like, yes, we should make these changes. Life would be so much lighter, so much easier. But how do we get motivated? How do we get started? What's step number one? And so we get into the science of behavior change, and then we offer up what we think are some of the strongest habits to embrace.
Nice.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
I'm just
It's
kind of checking out all your speakers here and who I know and don't
There you
know. And
are. I see
there's me.
you.
Awesome. Yeah, so
Yeah.
this happens just a little after our mold summit. I put the link in the chat and we'll have it below the YouTube. And then I wanted to share too your
Oh, the 3-day
website and
declutter
your
challenge.
yeah.
Yeah. So what this is, it's a over the course of 3 days, I'm in your inbox 3 times, once a day, and each day we focus on a different area to declutter. So day one is all about mind clutter, and mind clutter, basically, these are thoughts that are getting in the way of how you want to show up in life. So maybe a thought that you're not enough or a thought that you're too much. We focus on mind clutter. The second day, we focus on body clutter. So, of course, body clutter, that would be the mold. But we look at other forms of body clutter. And really, these are just things that are blocking your success with how you want to feel physically. And then on the third day, we focus on home clutter. And home clutter is not just the stuff you have, but it's also the messages that are streaming into your home from the TV or from your phones, social media, and so forth. And so by focusing on the body, and the home, and there's a challenge in each one of those days, a really powerful, easy challenge. Life will be lighter. So it's and why do we want life to be lighter? Because so many of us make it so complicated and so hard. And so this is definitely a way to simplify things, get more intentional, and just feel so much lighter about where you are in life and the direction you're going in.
Awesome. Yeah, you and I were chatting last time we met that that's been a theme for me is just like I just want to take everything I just want to take everything lighter. And I was working with you'll be happy to know, Heather, I was working with a beliefs coach for a couple months doing this like subconscious reprogram. It really
Yeah,
worked. Like I just don't worry about stuff like I
it's a
used to.
choice. It
Yeah.
really is. Here's one thing I like to say is that if you have a thought and it feels really heavy and it's not serving you, we're allowed to take that thought off. So think like the clothes you have in your closet. Think of the thoughts as the clothes in your closet. If the thought you have isn't serving you, take it off, pull out a different thought from the closet, put it on, and see if that serves you better. See if it feels more empowering. Every thought we have is optional. And so it's all about deciding what story do I want to tell and how do I close that gap.
Yeah, so great. And it's hard to believe that you can even change. These things are so automatic,
Yes.
but you really can. Like yesterday, I got super triggered about some ways I'm just stretching and I feel uncomfortable. And I was just like, ugh. My first instinct was like, I gotta like do a bunch of stuff. And I got interviewed by Annika Becker yesterday, and she's like, turn your computer off, go. Like she's so cute. So I took a nap at like 5 p.m. I took like an hour and a half nap. I played pickleball. I just kind of
Oh.
reset, you know, and which wasn't my instinct. My instinct
Mm-hmm.
was like, I gotta worry about this and fix
Mm-hmm.
this. And but lo and behold, like when you do it differently, you get different results. And this morning I was able to tackle it in a more calm way and see more
Mm.
solutions. You can't see any creative solutions when you're in that
No. No, and
state.
the brain is way too cluttered. Exactly.
Yeah,
So you have to
yeah.
like carve out a little pause, carve out some time to really listen to what matters most to you in that moment. And yeah, gift yourself that pause and you'll never regret it.
Yeah. Well, Heather, I love your work. I think some of these things are just so key to like living your best life is just how you approach life. So I know I don't know, seems like maybe not the easiest thing to teach. I could be wrong.
I personally love it. A
Okay.
lot of it, I'm doing what I'm doing because I had a lot of mental clutter and I had a lot of body clutter and a lot of home clutter. And when I decided to get curious about those 3 areas, my life got so much lighter. And so
Nice.
I knew, it helped me. And then it's helped, it's a powerful approach to really going after really anything you want in life is to take that, to always just get in the habit of going light versus going
Yeah.
heavy.
It's so it can feel counterintuitive because you have to learn it again, but it's so
Yeah.
great. So her website is school. of Living Lighter, and the event is the Healing Habits Summit, and we'll advertise it and we'll have all the links with the YouTube. I did share earlier our YouTube link. You guys can just go through the chat, but always we put the recordings there if you want to share it with somebody or you missed the beginning or what have you. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Let me quickly tell you I think next week I'm speaking because we had a cancellation, and I was like, I'll just go over all the fun things coming up on the mold summit and what I learned. So it should be a fun like smorgasbord of what really lit me up that I learned from all these experts. So I will see you all next week. And thanks again, Heather, for being on.
My pleasure. And thank you. Thank you for your really great questions. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.